to go.
We're all good. So for anyone that's joining us on the live stream, hello. Thank you very much for joining us. We're just pre-record. This is my friend Alex.
Hello.
Who we're going to introduce in the podcast very shortly. He's a tech journalist, works on Tech Advisor and Macworld. We're just getting a couple of things sorted. I think we're all good actually, and then we'll record. Thank you very much for joining us during this difficult time. So hopefully, if you're on your lunch break or just generally, being quarantined or anything else, that you can tune in and watch this. We'll be recording for about the next hour, talking about Apple, talking about new products, talking about things that have been affected by this thing that's happening. I've been told, by the way, reliably informed, I watched a video last week, if you mention the C word, it sort of can punish your
Is that true?
views. Apparently,
okay, I'll try and remember that.
I'm not too fussed about
wild,
it.
Though.
But I think everyone knows when we say virus or anything else.
The pandemic.
So let's get cracking, and thanks very much. I'm going to launch into the podcast now. Thank you very much for joining us. But this is a live podcast recording, so I'm going to focus on my laptop if I'm not looking at the camera. Hello and welcome to the Behind the Scenes Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Guy Cocker. Welcome to the show that pulls back the curtain of the tech industry, talks to its movers and shakers, and brings you a weekly fix of news, gossip, and anything else we can fit into the show. My guest on this show is someone I'm very proud to introduce to you guys. He's one of the best consumer tech journalists in the business. He started his career on GSM Arena, moved to Recombu and Trusted Reviews, and is currently the consumer tech editor at IDG across Tech Advisor and Macworld. His name is Alex Todd, also known as Toddy. Toddy, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me along.
So for people that don't know about you or the titles, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're interested in tech, and also a bit of about Tech Advisor and Macworld.
Sure, yeah. Well, if you know anything about my history and what you just ran off, mobile is definitely my bread and butter and where I kind of came in. I was already a phone geek before I was in the industry. I was actually, GSM Arena was the site I was on all the time just to see what was coming, all the hot specs, because I was just a spec nerd, a number nerd.
It's a really good site. It's a really good site for if you want to get really into mobiles.
Yeah, and I know like everyone from like other journalists to like even like your phone shops where you're looking to try out phones, they refer to it. It's a good reference material, but they also have like a great journalistic angle as well. And yeah, one day I was still at university at the time. They just threw out a looking for a London writer. I was bearing in mind I was studying at Bournemouth, which is about 2.5-3 hours away. Sure. But I was like, I'm sure if they need me to go into London for something, I can find out a way to get in there.
So your plan was to stay in Bournemouth?
Yeah, finish my degree, but I the opportunity I couldn't let it pass by. And sure. My wife, who was then my girlfriend, she was the one who was like, you should give it a go, throw it out there. I'd actually done a podcast of all things with my roommate at the time in gaming. Oh yeah. Which I'm sure you can still find on iTunes somewhere. There's like 13 episodes of this gaming show called The Meat Grinder.
Nice.
If you look for it.
Good name.
It's probably like, I think when Black Ops first came out, I think it was probably one of the first episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is that why it's called The Meat Grinder?
It was. We'd listened to the Epic Battle Axe podcast, which is another one, and that kind of like violent metal aesthetic would appeal to us, so we thought we'd make our own little British equivalent. But yeah, the opportunity seemed too big to pass by.
For sure.
Despite I was still studying, and I interviewed with them actually over Skype because they are based in Bulgaria.
Oh wow.
Which not a lot of people know, and they liked my stuff. They gave me some tests that all went really well. I liked the vibe I got from them, and that was kind of my first kind of step into the industry, which was pretty lucky I felt because it was such a well-known brand out the gate.
Oh yeah.
I was able to work for them. I think one of the first big trade shows I did was Nokia World 2011 at the XL in London. I really enjoyed working for them for just over a year. And then I moved to Recombu because at that time I'd been working from home, and I wanted to then work in an office environment, get into the city and work in London full time, which is where Recombu came in. That's right. And if you've seen me before, that might be because I've done a heck of a lot of videos for them.
You have,
a lot of writing, but videos that's where I really started doing video.
That's right.
In a big way, and I was there for about 6.5 years.
That's right. In an office just around the corner from the BBC.
Literally around the corner, and the stone's throw away. That was really good because the location was so central. That was when I really started going to an event, meeting and greeting. Probably where I first met you, actually, Guy. I think at a Sony event once under a bridge in central London, which was pretty fun.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Don't press me on which phone.
No, I think it was.
Was there a ball?
Yes. Yeah, good memory. My word, yeah.
I remember because there was a slow motion. I think as it's on every phone and camera now, but I think it was like new at the time, and so they were filming people jumping into
exactly
a ball pool. I want to say, I'm going to get this wrong, but I want to say maybe Jamila Jamil was DJing or something.
Really? I don't remember that much about it.
In her Good Place kind of
Sure.
things. I think that I'm probably conflating two different events there, but it's like it was a big event. I remember.
Oh, good memory.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was Recombo was a good one because it was a small publication, but it had recognition, and it was decidedly British as well, which I think was good for the British tech voice.
Yeah.
It was one of the few independents that was kind of notable.
For sure. It was really ahead of Recombo. It was really ahead of the curve with sort of comparison as well.
It was,
you know.
For those who don't know, the name is Read, Compare, Buy. It's a portmanteau. Most people never got that. Yeah, no one ever got that. It was a bad name in that regard, I guess, but I knew it. But yeah, no, it was a great place to work, and it's had a lot of journalists who you probably know who've worked through there.
Yeah.
At the time, like Basil Cronfley, who I'm sure you know.
Big in the mobile game.
Yeah. Andy Lim, who formerly of CNET, was one of the guys who helped set it up.
I worked with him on CNET,
of course, and he probably worked with Rory at CNET.
Yeah,
obviously now Top Gear and now Auto Trader, but he was editor in chief for a while. So yeah, it's had a lot of known writers and journalists go through there.
That's right.
So yeah, it's a really good place to kind of cut your teeth in and get real kind of in there with the industry.
So how did you find it moving from? So you were studying in Bournemouth.
Studying in Bournemouth, and then I finished my degree, and I was still working for GSM Marina. So I moved back to my family home, which is out in Surrey, just south of London. And that was fine for a bit, but you know, you want to, when you are of that age, you just come out of university, you've kind of had a bit of independence. So moving back home with the parents, as nice as it is to get your washing done on a regular basis, you want something a little bit more independent. So yeah, the job was part of that, as well as me moving into town and getting a flat of my own and sharing with housemates and all that good stuff. Recombo was also that kind of transition in my work life.
Because I've always been, I've worked on sites like CNET, but I've always been sort of on those broad tech publications.
Sure.
And so we'll cover this story in a second. We've already done, so at time recording, we've already recorded Alex's podcast. We've talked about this latest Apple news. And so even I get a bit confused by sort of what a chipset are we on the latest iPhone.
They're not making it easy for us.
They're not making it easy. It's not, there are harder jobs, but it's not easy to remember some of this stuff. But a site like GSM Marina, whenever I go on a trip with them, they're always the ones that are asking the really in-depth questions. Like, I remember being, I think, on a trip to Korea with LG, and they were asking such incredibly in-depth questions. Well, I was like, whoa! Like even I have no idea.
I can't take credit to be part of that angle of the site. I think I was much more. I mean, I was there. My official title was UK editor at the time, and it was really just to have a person on the ground here to attend, because so many launch events do happen here. So I focused more on the news and stuff. I was also, again, to tie in this video thing, it was the first time they had voice on video, because they didn't, at the time, they didn't want to put their own accented Bulgarian voices on video, despite the fact that English is probably better than mine.
Right. From a technical standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So they were happy to let me lend my voice to some of their earliest videos. And now, if you look at their YouTube channel, they're all on camera, and they make some fantastic content. So it's really nice to see how that's grown for them.
So amazing to get out the gate and become a UK editor for such a respected site.
I think it was a lucky start, but I love it.
Obviously down to hard work and talent and everything, but I mean, right place, right time, I guess.
For sure. And like, I guess it's a lesson in, if the opportunity comes up, don't hesitate, jump on those opportunities, because you never know when they're going to come around again.
So you've been IGG 6 months or a year?
Yeah, I joined in September. I've just passed my 6-month probation. They still like me,
Great stuff.
They want to keep me on, which is always good.
Important milestone. So what's it like working across a couple of different titles? So you work across TechAdvisor and Macworld, and so, I mean, my experience has been usually on one title. Do you have to have a different head on for writing about stuff for Macworld, or how does that work? The voice is
generally speaking fairly consistent across both. I guess the main difference is obviously Macworld, you're going there because you already have an interest in Apple. It's not so much, for instance, with reviews, whether you should or shouldn't buy product X or Y. It's more about what are the main focuses. So you don't have to be quite as it's definitely a different voice to TechAdvisor.
Sure.
TechRadar's great too. Check them out.
Yeah,
good guys there as well. But yeah, TechAdvisor is TechAdvisor is a lot more generalist. We've only recently brought in going kind of more hardcore on Apple content, we wanted to kind of keep them separate.
Sure.
So that's been a big shift as well. Trying to find ways to differentiate the same content across two publications. And part of that is that we have dedicated Mac world writers who, we can entrust them to do some really in-depth stuff, and we can cover more surface stuff on Macworld whilst we focus on Tech Advisor stuff. So yeah, it's a bit of a juggling act, but not too scary.
IDG does from a sort of industry perspective, having myself worked in publishing for it, they do a phenomenal job of getting their content across loads of different platforms. So the website, magazine, including stuff on Readly now, which is kind of bespoke for
Before I joined, I had no idea just the scope of the company, and they have a huge B2B side as well. They have fingers in a lot of pies.
That's right.
It's cool to be a part of a company that has like international offices and all that kind of stuff. The opportunities there, I think, again, are going to be appealing to me.
Sure. And what are you into right now? Obviously, it's a strange time in general for a lot of people, but in tech, there are events that are getting cancelled by the day. There's I think products are still being launched. We're going to talk about this Apple thing that's literally just come in about 30 minutes ago. They're new products, so there's still stuff being released, but stores are being shut down. What? How are you finding it? Do you think that the tech industry is? How's it reacting? Are you being affected personally? Obviously, you're working from home because we're in your house right now.
Yeah. The personal effect is really just working from home, which as journalism goes, is not too traumatic.
Sure.
The main thing that we're missing out on is being able to do video in the same way. So the Fast Charge, the weekly tech show that we record, which is kind of a video podcast similar to this, you will see in this week's episode, if you tune in on our YouTube channel, that we are all from home doing it via Google Hangout. So it's minor changes here and there. I don't think we have it quite easy, I think, versus some people. In terms of industry stuff, pretty much every event that was meant to be in person and live, be it a pre-brief or an actual launch, has now become an online only stream.
That's right.
Which is not surprising.
We were at one on Friday, I think it was. I think Thursday or Friday last week, so about a week ago. And it felt very much like that was the last one. I
walked in to shake people's hand and people were immediately hesitating. I kind of didn't put two and two together, and when I left, it was all touching elbows. So even those little things, like, it does definitely have an impact. In terms of product launching, I don't think it's going to slow down any of the big players. This more came out of MWC, but I felt sorry for the slightly smaller companies who'd invested money in venues or marketing, and obviously have to scrap it because they don't necessarily have the wiggle room that the big companies do to deal with a blow like that.
For sure,
And that's what I'm most worried about, is those kind of more innovative small companies trying to build stuff right now in this market, and how that affects everyone.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there was a fund that was set up post Game Developers Conference, which I think was supposed to be in February, which was cancelled, or early March, and there was a fund for smaller developers that had invested probably a significant portion of their marketing budget to be there, give a talk, or to listen to what other members of the industry were saying. So it's a difficult time right now. But for the most part, it's you specialise, like you say, mobiles is still coming through. We're expecting some. You've had some previews, and you're expecting some Nokia stuff tomorrow. There's still things that are being launched.
Things are still happening. Yeah, I think the rate will slow though, and in the news side as well, we were finding like there's less news going on. There's less activity just across the board. So it's definitely having an effect. What won't be affected is people are still going to buy product. I think, especially with phones. I think that people are still going to want to, now more than ever perhaps, with, if you've got a 2-year-old phone and you're stuck at home and you want to play some games and you don't have an Xbox or whatever, maybe you want to upgrade your phone and get something a bit beefier just in your pocket. So
that's right. Around the house. Yeah, that's right. And there's a number of things that are happening at the moment. We're not going to cover it in the news, so we'll talk about it here, but there's things like Sky are offering, I think, I forget what this is, but actually, the mobile providers are offering the ability to use the NHS website. Obviously, we record here in the UK to access it without using your data allowance, and there's kind of support things that are happening. Apparently, some of the broadband networks are being impacted by the number of people that are working from home. But there's sort of support structures that are being put in place for this unprecedented time of need. We'll talk to Alex more shortly, but before we get into the show, remember you can drop me an email at guy@guycocker.com. Please let me know what you think of the show, as well as who you'd like to see on upcoming episodes. As I was talking to just ahead of the show with Alex, the feeds are all sorted now, so I should be able to be found wherever. I'm like everywhere now. So if you're on iTunes or Google Podcasts, or Spotify, or I publish my podcast through Anchor, you should be able to find the show. And please, if you do listen to it and you've enjoyed it, do remember to rate it or leave a review. I use Apple Podcasts. It really helps people find the show. And thank you very much in advance. Okay, time for this week's news. I've picked out some of the biggest and most interesting news stories. There's things that are developing as we're recording. I've just recorded, as Alex was saying, the podcast that those guys do. You didn't actually mention the YouTube channel, so I want to just get that plug in there.
It is. Guys. If you just search Tech Advisor on YouTube, you will find it. But yes, that is both. Yeah, all of our regular phone videos as well as the Fast Charge, our weekly mobile first tech show that we talk about. We usually have 2 or 3 hosts on, usually people from the office, but Guy, you are our first external celebrity guest.
I feel honoured. That's awesome.
It was very exciting to have you on, so thank you for joining us.
No, thank you, and please do go and like and follow and subscribe. I'm doing some YouTube videos myself now, and I'm basically channeling Chris Barraclough, who we both know and had on last week's podcast.
Sure.
You gotta hit the subscribe button, hit the like button,
ding that bell,
smash the like button. Got to remember to drop that in as much as possible.
And you need that Midlands charm as well.
You do need a bit of charm, which Chris Barraclough has in spades. So if you've not listened to that podcast from last week, please go and do that. So first story, we can't really talk about it too much, but we're expecting some new Nokia phones to be coming through. We did touch on this last week. Basically, Nokia, their last phones, a bit of strange ones. Their feature phones seem to be doing quite well at the sort of £50 to £100 price tag. We expect maybe a new flagship to come through. We can't really say too much about it, but there's probably some new flagships coming around the time that you're going to be listening to this podcast. So watch out for that. I mean, how do you feel about Nokia in general? Do you like they've got this James Bond appearance whenever that film's announced?
I mean, it kind of reminded me of not that long ago, but back before the Windows Phone times, maybe during the Windows Phone times, Nokia was actually pretty prolific at getting its phones into media, like cinema and stuff.
That's right.
So this is kind of a return to form in that regard, and I think obviously the new James Bond movie's a big get. It's a bit of a shame that the movie's now been delayed till November, I believe it is.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that in general, but yes, it has in theory been delayed. Yeah.
So I wonder whether if what they are pushing in the Bond marketing is a device that they're launching now, is that device going to be replaced by the time the movie comes out, and is that going to kind of mess with their whole brand strategy?
Absolutely.
It'd be interesting to see how that actually pans out. But yeah, I think it's cool that they're back in the advertising game in that regard.
Yeah.
Sony went pretty hard in the Bond movies when Daniel Craig joined, obviously because of the tie-in there. But
because they were distributing the first. I think it was what was the first one? Casino Royale was kind of an obnoxious level of product placement. Yeah, just the laptop that he was using and the
Ford Mondeo. They had the first Ford Fusion. Sorry, it was the Fusion that became the Mondeo. They had like the prototype in the movie, and then he gambles it for the Aston.
That's right. It's such a big part of it, and it's partly why that film series maybe grates on me a little bit. Obviously, Skyfall's an amazing film, but it's just the level. That's how they make the money from that film, is obviously ticket sales. But it's such a any time a Bond film comes out, you read a magazine, it's like Bond, and what watch is he wearing, what car is he driving, what phone is he using.
But those moments do kind of cheapen it a little bit.
I think so. I think so.
It's really down to, I guess, how much control Nokia has over the in-movie placement of any of its products. Yeah. As well as like how any external marketing happens.
You realise, obviously there's bigger things happening right now, but you realise during these times like how everything is, like, I don't want to get too deep, but how society in general is so sort of delicately balanced. If you're doing anything and there's something gets into the machine that affects it, everything gets out of whack. So like you say, they've in theory got their new phone in this film, but if it's pushed to November, it won't be that new, and so that will then mean in theory, because of the delicate nature, they probably have to do reshoots within all the different.
I do wonder. That was one of my first thoughts. Was whether they're going to have to do any extra filming just to kind of keep it feeling fresh by the time the movie rolls around.
Well, the conspiracy theory on this whole thing is that actually they were worried about the test screenings and also the audience. Obviously, Billie Eilish, incredible artist. She's got the theme song. It didn't really sort of make the impact that they wanted. So there was a sort of conspiracy theory around, well, this is actually quite good for them. They wanted to push it back so they could do maybe some reshoots and sort of address some of the feedback that they had on the film. But it's an interesting one. So we've got some Nokia stuff coming through. One of the things that just happened while we've been setting up and recording, some new Apple products, not incredibly exciting, as you'll both see if you're watching the live stream, and you can watch this each week. on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/guycocker. Ding that like button. That you will see that there's some new Apple products. So it's new MacBook and a new iPad Pro.
Yeah.
Not particularly exciting, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But we're both using Apple products. I've got the Apple laptop. I just bought a MacBook Pro in September, so I'm sort of interested in the MacBook Air, which is an interesting proposition in general. What have you got? You got a Pro?
So this is an Air. This is a 2015 Air.
Oh wow, okay.
But
Still hanging on there.
It is what I think has instilled a lot of faith in Apple's laptops. I really like.
Yeah.
I've used Airs for a while now, and yeah, this is really solid. So the fact they brought out a new one to me is pretty exciting. It is just a refresh, but I think it's a pretty decent refresh. With the 10th gen chips, all that kind of stuff. Nothing mind blowing. I think the keyboard is the new, slightly. I mean, they're forever kind of trying to fix their keyboard. I feel like since they went to that really narrow butterfly key design.
Again, what I remember is sort of being put off buying a Pro because of the problems that they were having with it, and then they addressed it. I personally really like the whatever mechanism, the scissor mechanism that they're using. I like it for typing on, but but it does have this sort of air of the keyboards aren't that good. But I think it's fixed now. I think it's solved, at least for the most part. You still get a lot of hardcore people in the Mac world who are like, no, we prefer the old keyboards.
Yeah.
But this has got the latest one. It's got a slightly bigger trackpad. But I think, like you say, that the headline is it's £999 for the basic model. It's got 256 gig of storage, which is probably enough for most people.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a cheaper starting price, I think, than the previous Air was.
Yeah, I think it's £100 less.
Yeah, which is always good when Apple products get cheaper. So.
Yeah, and I think actually this is a slightly cheeky admission, but I always wait. I try and find someone that I know, usually through a friend of a friend, who's a student who I can like buy through.
Always.
Yeah,
if you can, you should.
If you can, you should. So I actually bought it in September. This one with the student discount, got some Beats headphones, not which I'm using at the moment, but it's a rare product in the Apple world where I think it is. It's not. I'm not going to say it's good value, but it's not too expensive. It's not ridiculously expensive.
I think for the power it delivers, it's an impressive piece of kit, and I would say if it's as reliable as this one, then it's definitely worth, like, for the money. I think you're plus years
for sure
in the way that I think this MacBook has, at least.
Have you used any of the competitive? I personally, as a gamer, I really like the Razer ones. I really like the idea of having something that I can actually play games on.
Yeah.
But I time and again keep coming back to the Mac just because it is that sort of creative workstation that I need. So for you, have you used the Huawei MateBook or anything like that?
I think the MateBooks are probably the closest kind of foil to the MacBook line, and I think they are all great pieces of kit. Everyone I know who's reviewed or tested or used them, and I've played with them at the very least myself, loves them. My personal Windows machine is a gaming laptop. It's got a 1070, so it's from like last year. It's a Gigabyte Aero 15,
but still good enough to run
for sure. I can VR on it. That's really all I use it for. That and a few other bits and bobs. So yeah.
So do you actually play? You've got an Oculus or a HTC? Or?
I've got an old review sample Windows mixed reality headset, which is usable whenever I have the opportunity to borrow from the office kind of store, the Rift or the Quest or anything. Then I do, because I think they are the better headsets.
Sure.
We've actually just got the Vive Cosmos in. I think we're playing that right now. Yeah,
nice.
We're going to be looking at that real soon, which I'm interested in as well.
Yeah, I mean the big one is the I think it's at the end of the month, Half-Life Alyx, which is coming out.
So excited for that.
Which I mean I actually, when I moved house about a year ago, moved into my own place, had a big living room. I actually bought, I think of that on that Black Friday, an Oculus headset, but I just never ended up really using it, so I got rid of it. But I think this is the one thing to get me back into it again.
Would you get the Index then?
I think the Index is just too, like, was it 900?
Yeah, it's like £999 or something for like the whole shebang.
I mean,
or maybe even not even the whole kit. I'm not sure.
I think Valve is just they are like the Nintendo of, when Nintendo releases a Zelda game, you got to be there for that. Or for me, a Mario game. I think with Valve, anything that they do, I'm interested in and in theory ready to drop money on.
I would love the Index, but I just can't afford that kind of gear.
It's too much, but on the flip side, it's been a while. I know Valve have released games in the interim. They've done obviously a lot of work on Steam, but it feels to me like Valve has become a different company and is maybe a long way from its glory days when it was doing. I know it's done Dota and that sort of stuff, but that Half-Life was a long time ago now. I trust in them that Half-Life Alyx will be amazing.
Yeah.
dropping £900 on it before it's come out. If the reviews are like this is the best game ever, then I'm closer to buying a HTC Index. But
sure.
I think it's probably unlikely. I think at £300, if they got it on Quest, I'd be quite up for that.
Yeah. Agreed.
So I've lost where we were here. We've gone off topic. So we were talking about.
We're talking about the new MacBook. Yeah. There's also some new iPads. It's a new Pro refresh.
Yeah.
The main takeaways from when we looked at it earlier, two sizes, like I said. It now adopts the iPhone 11 style kind of square camera module.
Yeah. And
it has a secondary ultra wide.
Yeah.
Which is interesting for a tablet. I'm not the biggest fan of watching people take photos on tablets.
I hate it so much.
But I think the real idea for Apple is that they want to push the AR experiences, and that's why it also has this additional LiDAR system, which is an interesting. I don't think I've reviewed any consumer products with LiDAR built in, so that is interesting.
Have you seen? I'm putting you on the spot a bit here, but have you seen any really interesting AR experience? Is there anything that stands out as like, oh, this is something you should definitely try?
I haven't played it, but the concept of Minecraft Earth appealed, and it was first showcased to me on stage at an Apple keynote.
Yeah.
So I think that'll probably be one of the best ways to play something like Minecraft Earth.
Yeah.
Beyond that, no, the only other time I ever find myself really using AR right now is when Apple releases a product and then you can preview it in AR.
Yeah.
Like when the Mac Pro, the new cheese grater Mac Pro came out.
Yeah.
And just to be able to put it in front of you and look around it. So I think Apple's probably doing the most for AR in the consumer space right now, and this is kind of continuing that trend.
Oh yeah, I've no doubt that AR has more of a future, or more of a sort of bigger mainstream future than virtual reality.
Yeah.
But it's that thing where I occasionally play around with it in the IKEA app, and the same as you use it on the Apple website.
Yeah.
But
maybe this is Apple's like Apple T equivalent. Like they were in the game so early, and no one else is really like looking at them going, "Why are you bothering?"
Sure.
And then come the time that it really takes off, they're like, "Well, we've been in this game longer than any of you." So
yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's that play.
So other than that, it's not really that exciting. The iPad Pro. That said, it's a very nice bit of kit.
Yeah, you noticed about the processors.
Mm-hmm. The processors are not. Yeah, it's an A12Z rather than A12X. New processor, but it's the current gen on mobile, at least on the iPhone 11 Pros. Is A13.
So it's the first time I think Apple's done that, and they've not kept it in step. I'm not sure why.
I would hope that you would get the best processor on
it.
There's no specs in the press release. It may well keep pace with A13, but the fact that it's called A12 suggests that it's not quite the cutting edge. Which is a shame. I'm sure it's still plenty powerful.
I have no doubt that it'll be a good machine for the right person.
The other Apple related news, and we'll try and steer clear of there's so much news around things that are getting cancelled at the moment.
Sure.
The Worldwide Developers Conference in June has been cancelled, or it's been moved into an online format. Is this something that you pay attention to in general?
We cover WWDC every year.
Yeah.
It's really kind of Apple's opportunity to show off what's coming from iOS, macOS, and iPadOS now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of bring us back to the iPads for a second. Yeah, like they also double down on the kind of more laptop-like experiences that iPadOS is meant to be about, and that's why one of the accessories is a new keyboard with that kind of proper key switches and a actual trackpad. It's the first accessory keyboard that we've seen from Apple with a trackpad for an iPad.
That's right. And how much are they?
They're like, I think for the smaller one it's like high 200, and then for the bigger one it's 300 and something. It's just nuts.
I think it's 299 and 349.
There we go. Yeah.
So basically what you're looking at, if you want to get the iPad Pro with the official keyboard, as nice as it looks, you're going to pay more than a MacBook Air, which is, to me, it's a simple decision. I know some people really like creativity, and you've obviously got the touchscreen of the iPad Pro, but that, unlike the MacBook Pro, unlike the MacBook Air, is not a value proposition. That's like that you're splashing the cash there for a very specific purpose.
You're
flaunting a little.
But yeah, with WWDC, I think that's what they're gonna kind of double down. They're gonna hope people are gonna buy these machines and to kind of make them more appealing. I think they're gonna really double down on iPadOS's kind of productivity, talent, and tool set. This year, that's what they're going to show off. I think at the show in a big way.
And again, people that use iPad Pro as their desktop replacement, I don't quite believe it, but the people that do it, they often say, "Yeah, this is my do everything machine. I edit videos on."
And yeah, sure, it can totally work for you. I just don't think the average person is going to be willing to relearn processes.
Oh, we've got a. Is that
what that is?
Is that a smoke alarm or
maybe?
Apologies for anyone that's watching on the live stream.
Yeah, sorry for your ears, headphones.
I've got my headphones on, so it's not too loud. Do you want to investigate?
Yeah, may I?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we'll step away and I'll try and do something entertaining on the live stream. So we're just going to be covering off a few more news stories, including things that have been affected by the current situation. Trying to avoid using the C word. I think we're okay. Yeah, we're okay. So thanks very much for tuning in. If you've got any questions or any thoughts or anything you want to ask Alex, who's a mobile specialist on Tech Advisor, then please do post in the YouTube comments. I'm just going to have a look on YouTube right now. And do let us know if you've got any thoughts. As I said, guy@guycocker.com for future guests or anything else you want to see on the show. There's no fire.
No fire, no smoke. No, just an unhappy smoke alarm, just keeping us on our toes. But thankfully, everything is fine. This is not going to be the first on podcast fire.
Thank goodness, we're okay. So yes, so that's the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, which is going to move to an online format. We'll do a sort of news in brief concerning things that are being affected at the moment.
Sure.
One is that online gaming is seeing a surge at the moment. So online gaming, people are obviously staying at home. Steam had its most concurrent users ever.
Yeah, you were saying
20 million on Sunday. So that's probably going to go up as we kind of go through this experience. So obviously people are being kept indoors. Have you been gaming more recently?
I'm still kind of feeling out Stadia. I bought Stadia on I got the Founders Edition.
Yeah.
I was really hyped for the concept.
Yeah.
And yeah, unlike journalist colleagues who got the reviews, I was actually willing to put actual money down, which is not common.
So it's £120 for the console?
Yeah, it was £119, and you got the Chromecast Ultra. That was like with the firmware to run it off the get-go. That's the only way right now to play it. Well, was the only way to play in 4K 60. Yeah. They've since added laptop support for that now as well.
Okay, cool.
Came with an exclusive controller color, which is night blue, which is fine. Cool. I prefer the white one.
Cool.
And 3 months of Stadia Pro, which is the 4K 60 5.1 surround kind of package. And being a Pro subscriber, you also get access to free games each month.
Cool, but you still have to buy the headline, like your Borderlands 3.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So quick kind of primer on Stadia is it is basically you're paying to access a cloud console. It's not Netflix.
Sure.
So you still have to buy the games on top, and that is, I think, a challenge for a lot of people.
Sure.
That's where other cloud services like GeForce Now are coming in. Shadow is an interesting one because it's basically a cloud accessible gaming PC, so you can just download your existing game to that cloud PC and access it from anything. Tried that too. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing myself. I made a lot of Destiny 2 on Stadia. It's been but some of the games, I think, a new game that you mentioned earlier, an interesting stat on was the new Call of Duty Warzone.
Yeah, so Warzone is obviously it's timed incredibly well in terms of its launch.
Horrible circumstance,
they couldn't have really timed it better. So it's hit 15 million players at time of recording. I think it's been out. I remember playing it on Sunday. It feels to me like it's been out for about a week now.
Yeah, not that long.
So it's the fastest. It's the game that's the fastest to get there. That's not a mobile game, basically. Right. So 15 million players. Pretty impressive. I mean, it's a free-to-play game. I played it on the weekend. I played it on PC against someone on PlayStation and Xbox. It's a great little game. I don't know how do you feel about Call of Duty in general?
I haven't played many Call of Duties of late. I love the franchise back, like when Modern Warfare 2 first came out. I played, a bit of Apex Legends, a bit of Fortnite. Not really a huge fan of those big multiplayer games. I actually like PUBG of the most. I think this is a more kind of approachable iteration of that, more than perhaps the more cartoony style games.
Yeah.
I think it's come at a great time. It's interesting. If there was no pandemic happening right now, I don't think it would have done particularly well because it feels pretty late to the party in terms of these big multiplayer shooters.
That's what I think. Yeah, I think it's interesting because obviously there's still a huge market of people that are interested in a free-to-play Call of Duty, but it does in many ways feel a little bit late. It feels, many years on from PUBG, at least a few years on from Fortnite, but there's still interest there for it.
One of the things you mentioned, I think, which helps particularly right now is the cross-play support is so good.
Yeah.
I think being able to play with people across so many different platforms, not just, PC to Xbox or whatever, I think that makes it particularly potent in the current space.
For sure. For me, it still feels like a cheat being able to play on PC against anyone on Xbox.
That's surprising that they let that happen.
Well,
I didn't realise they would allow that.
You have to elect in to do that. So you have to
Okay.
go into the settings and say, yes,
So the console gamers know that they are up against some people with a mouse and keyboard.
That's right. There's a slight disadvantage there. But
maybe they just like the challenge.
they like the challenge. Obviously, if you're a really good Xbox player, I'm sure you can still take a PC player on. But just that ability, that sort of ability to twitch with the mouse and sort of...
Are you playing on PC?
I'm playing on PC because I'm, I have no morals. I'm quite happy just
taking
absolutely.
No, I'd be right there with you.
Console news. There was a slight annoyance in as much as the chat, because you're working across Xbox and PlayStation. I was so frustrated. I was playing with a couple of friends and I couldn't hear them for a while. So, but other than that, it's a fun game. I'd say the best part about it, at least in my limited experiences, the idea is you team up with 2 other friends and you're in teams of 3, and that seems to work pretty well.
Maybe after the show I'll download it and
we can
get into a game.
Well, the thing was, if you don't own Modern Warfare, so the most recent Modern Warfare, you've got to download 100, depending on platform, it's between 80 and 100 gigabytes. And actually, I'm going to get the name of the organisation wrong, but basically the switch in London through which all the traffic goes through, again, I had a huge peak around Sunday of people just downloading this, and it was, massive amounts of terabytes.
I don't doubt it.
So that was a frustration as well. For me, I seem to remember sort of the era of Xbox 360 when online gaming became a thing and playing like Rainbow Six Vegas. Games like that, you just pop the disc in and it was good. Nowadays, if you're like, I'm going to play that Call of Duty. Oh wait, I've got to download it. Right, I'll see you in 2.5 hours, I guess. Like it just lacks that immediacy.
As much as people like to rag on Stadia, that is one of those things that I like about it, is that it's just ready to go.
I think with that, so I'm really, if anyone's going to do it, Google's going to do it because they've got the infrastructure. But I think for me personally, in the cloud gaming space, Nvidia's proposition works for me because I've got so many games in Steam. So Nvidia, you pay, I think it's small, so it's like $5.99 a month.
Yeah, it's not much.
And then you get access to your Steam library in the cloud. And then Xbox, I just did a little bit for Metro, a newspaper this week, and the question I got was, which platform would you go for right now, PS5 or Xbox Series X? Apparently, I keep forgetting because it changes every other day. Like right now, Xbox Series X is slightly in the lead in terms of performance.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
I think it's going to be pretty negligible, unless there's a website out there called Digital Foundry as part of Eurogamer. Unless you're Digital Foundry and you're doing side-by-side comparisons and you're comparing load times and everything else, I just don't think real world it really matters. The games, this is essentially next-gen consoles, they're PC hardware. They're going to be broadly the same. Doesn't matter. Like, just buy whatever platform your friends are on, and also which exclusives you're into. That said, I would probably, this generation I would have gone PlayStation definitely. This next generation, I think Xbox Game Pass is so good in terms of its offering.
Really good, right?
Like in terms of the value, I would say probably go with Xbox next time.
And at the same time, the services like GeForce Now, I'm a little bit worried about, because obviously once it formally moved out of beta, a lot of publishers pulled their games, and that had a huge effect. I think Activision Blizzard was like, we're not supporting the contracts they'd agreed upon were only for the course of the beta.
Right.
So it lost a huge swathe of the games.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's
so that'll be interesting to see how whether they can redeem it and kind of bring those games back onto the platform.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's an interesting time with that stuff. I think also Project X Cloud, I think, will be the one that will, once that launches properly and people can play Halo on their mobile phone. So that's a really compelling.
It's going to be interesting to see how both PlayStation and Xbox, how they handle both the cloud experience and the console experience, the hardware console experience.
I know. I believe so. We're recording this. If you're watching it live on live stream, you're obviously watching live. But we're recording this on Wednesday. I believe there's a PlayStation 5 announcement today.
Yep.
We'll see what that entails, whether there's going to be a release date and whatever else. But Sony does feel like it's slipping behind a bit in terms of its.
And I think the last generation they had the lead. That might not be the case going into this next generation.
They need to up the game a little bit. Yeah. But obviously the PlayStation brand is still synonymous with gaming. So I'm sure they'll do very well. Next story, again, slightly related to what's happening. So Amazon's staff have been told to work overtime as the virus spikes. So normally the only times that the warehouse staff have to work compulsory overtime is Prime Week and Black Friday. Both huge days in journalism now, which I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
Where
spend weekends in the office.
Absolutely.
Trying to cover it.
Huge monumental efforts. Everyone from the editorial team to the search engine optimization team, everyone's just focused around this week of just finding the best deals. Huge part of it, but actually this is now the situation where stores are selling out. Have you been in any local supermarkets recently?
Yeah, the last weekend we had some friends over and we were cooking Sunday roast, and it was a bit stressful just doing the regular shop. Not because there was anything we like needed desperately that wasn't there, but just to see the vibe of other people and just to see how many empty shelves there was, no rice, no pasta, no frozen vegetables. Yeah, I think it's unnecessary for the situation.
It's a whole other discussion. I haven't been into a supermarket since Friday, and actually on Friday it was pretty bad.
Yeah,
I was just trying to buy some lunch from Lidl because I'm a classy guy, and the queues were just massive. Like I just walked out. I was just like, I guess I'm not going to eat. Which is a shame, but basically Amazon staff are being told that they have to work overtime. So there's not really a tech angle on this. It's more of a sort of retail in the way that we're buying products now, but it is the same things that are going out of stock in supermarkets are being ordered apparently through Amazon. I'm a big Amazon user. I've had friends and people that are like they actively avoid it just for moral reasons around their contribution to tax and all that sort of stuff, and also the working conditions in their warehouses. But it has become kind of the de facto standard of like, if I need something urgently, I'm just going to get it sent to me.
I think buyer habits have changed so much in the last few years, and Amazon's been obviously probably one of the biggest proponents of that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means for the workers in terms of do we know, are they getting overtime? Are they getting extra pay?
They're getting pay, but the thing that's causing a problem with the union. So the GMB union has said it's concerning because it's putting demands on workers without really regard for their safety. And I found myself very guilty of this week because I've been buying stuff from various things. I need a lot of equipment, so like podcasting at the moment. I'm ordering cables that I need from like China, and I'm getting stuff from Amazon that I need urgently, and I've been guilty of not thinking about the repercussions, not only just for postal workers. I had something delivered the other day, and the Royal Mail delivery person was saying, don't sign for it. I'll sign for it just because of the sort of the passing infection. I just haven't really been. It sort of just shone a light on something that I hadn't really thought about, which is obviously people working behind the scenes to get these products to me.
Yeah, I think about that about all of the services that currently especially the internet providers and stuff.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to need engineers and technicians working in offices to keep server rooms up and running and all that stuff. So I think people sometimes forget just how many people are still going to have to work through this who can't self-isolate.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, like I say, not really a tech story, but just something to bear in mind. And then final story is Bill Gates stepping down from the Microsoft board. So he's actually stepped down from Microsoft, and he's a member of the board on Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway holding company. That's more to do with investments, but he appears to be moving more towards his charitable foundation, which is I think is one of the biggest in the world in terms of its budget, which he runs with his wife Melinda. But he's stepping away. I mean, it's an interesting. I presume you've sort of followed Microsoft. I wouldn't have put a bet on Microsoft being in the situation it's in now. One of the big news stories at the moment is Amazon versus Microsoft in terms of the cloud services that it's providing to the American security agency about that perhaps not being not above board, but there was some concern that favoritism was involved. But it's a huge contract, and Microsoft really under Satya Nadella has repositioned itself as an enormous services company.
It was all about services from day one, pretty much.
Which, in hindsight, is easy to see. Oh yeah, that's definitely the way to do it. But obviously, behind the scenes, a huge shift away from hardware. Well, they're still producing hardware, but certainly not as many mobile phones. Do you just have any thoughts on Microsoft as a brand? Because if I'm with a company, I remember working with a company and we shifted from Google Suite to Microsoft. And I was like, oh god, I've got to go back to using Office and Exchange and Teams and everything. But they're making big strides, and I don't know. I presume you use Google where you work.
I use Google, both for work and personal stuff. But I know that Microsoft has been working really hard to build out in the consumer space and the business space a suite of apps and services that everyone can use across so many different platforms. And I think they're doing a decent job there. They're just not the sexiest brand.
They're not,
and I think that is the big thing that they've kind of had to face up against. that said, I think they are making amazing strides in the cloud game with their Azure platform and all of that stuff.
Well, in enterprise, it doesn't really matter if you're sexy or not. It's just, are you doing a good service?
Providing
a good
service? Are you good or not? Yeah.
So they've leaned into that, but they've certainly got an element of cool with. Maybe not in the consumer. I think Xbox is kind of cool, but maybe some people disagree. You know?
I think their social media is pretty good. Have you seen that they actually put a fridge for scale in a tweet the other day?
I didn't know.
Yeah, they put the Xbox Series X in a fridge for scale. So they've got a humorous kind of front face, which I think is smart, especially right now with how glum everyone's feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a brand, it's a weird mix. I think they've had to twist themselves pretty hard in the last few years to stay not afloat but stay relevant and stay in people's minds in a positive light. I'm not surprised that there may be some shadier aspects to them, but I can't imagine any big company doesn't have some of those shadier aspects. Really.
Well, yeah, back in the day when it was trying to get Windows onto every single PC ever made, there was some suggestions. There was some antitrust cases about them and their involvement with the likes of HP to get Windows on there.
And having like Microsoft Explorer on every platform, every out the box, and, and anti-competitive practices and all that stuff. In terms of the Bill Gates positioning, as far as I was aware, I only ever really thought of him nowadays as working on his philanthropic stuff. So the fact he's not really part of the board, I don't know how much of an impact that's going to have to the actual running of the company.
He's interesting because I think with the rise of Apple and Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs was definitely seen as this sort of this not messiah, but like this person who left and came back and totally obviously transformed the fortunes of Apple. But Bill Gates made Microsoft from his garage into something that at the time probably the biggest company in the world, now one of the biggest companies in the world. And he is an incredibly intelligent person, and he understands tech. And him maybe stepping away from it. Again, we don't know his day-to-day involvement in it. He's probably involved in the monthly board meetings, and that's probably about it. But he may well have some input on Microsoft and whether this is going to change. But you're right, he's got such a big philanthropic venture now that probably his time is better spent doing that stuff, especially in times of need where we've got lots of people worried about what they're going to be eating and stuff like that. But it's a good thing that he's moving away. Anyway, thank you very much for running through those stories. You can find out more about those stories. I pulled them from BBC News Tech, but keep an eye out on the internet. Right now, time to talk to Alex about what the tech he. Let me do that again. Time to talk to Alex about the tech that he's using. What's in his bag in a regular section that I do on the show. Tech that you can't live without. So Alex, just tell us, what mobile phone are you using right now?
I always, to most of my friends who aren't tech journalists, surprise, I'm always rocking an iPhone and an Android device.
Yeah.
I've been using an iPhone 10 pretty much since they came out.
Yeah.
And that has been my iOS device of choice. Right now, my main device is a Pixel 4 XL.
Okay.
I can deal with the battery constraints that people put on it. But I have also just reviewed the Galaxy S20 Plus.
Right.
So I'm actually currently sporting 3 phones on the go.
Right.
The S20 Plus also has that 5G, so I'm using that to test 5G stuff. That's interesting.
I was going to say, that's the only, correct me if I'm wrong here, that's the only one they've really sent out to reviewers, right? That's top end, or have you got the other ones?
We already reviewed the Ultra.
Right.
That went back, and then we have the 20 and the 20 Plus, both of the reviews on TechAdvisor have just gone live on those.
Check them out.
Check them out.
You like them?
Yeah, I think they're great. My main takeaway from my review, TLDR version, but still go read it, is because they are so close, the 20 and the 20 Plus in terms of spec, probably more so than previous Galaxy S generations.
Sure.
I would say you're not losing much by going for the smaller model.
Right.
And I think for the money, I think the smaller model is the better bet.
Right.
I like the bigger screen. That's great. Sure. If you want to use it as your media device, it's HDR10, it's 120 Hz, it's WQHD, it's feature packed in that regard. But yeah, if you don't want to spend £999 on a phone, then the standard S20 won't really take much away, and you still get a really solid flagship that'll last you a good 2 years.
Is that standard model 5G as well?
So in the UK, it varies by country. So in the US, they're all 5G, but the S20 only has sub-6 5G, whilst the Plus and the Ultra have millimeter wave. In the UK, you can buy a 4G model of the S20 or a 5G model of the S20. The S20 Plus is only 5G, and the Ultra is only 5G.
I think I followed all that. That was quite a lot. That was well remembered.
I try to keep it simple, but
That's good.
In the UK they can all be 5G, but the S20 base also has a 4G only, which is £100 less.
Right, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I see you're rocking, you've got like an honour badge on your iPhone. You're like
I'm not brand loyal. I mean, partly, you can see that through the OSs and the hardware I'm using. But it's like kind of like a pop socket.
Yeah.
I got it free in like a gift bag from an event or something, stuck on the back of the phone. I use it all the time. It's super useful. People think it's hilarious. But if you're using a phone one-handed on the train and someone knocks you, it's saved that expensive phone a fair few times.
That's right.
Got a little ridge so you can position it and watch videos on a table.
What about the sort of general tech that you use? Is there anything that you've used recently or that you carry around? Obviously, you're going to a lot of events. What's the tech you can't live without?
Right now, because I'm kind of invested in Stadia right now, I actually take my Stadia controller in my bag with me around in case I'm ever in a place. I have tried it on 5G using a 5G hotspot by hotspotting off a phone with a 5G SIM. That did work. It wasn't great, but it worked.
Yeah.
So that was
you could play games.
I was playing Destiny 2 in a hotel in Manchester.
Oh wow.
Using a 5G hotspot and playing Destiny 2, which is a pretty good looking game. It was playable. I wouldn't say it was the smoothest it's ever been, but it was. As the 5G infrastructure gets better, that's going to be better.
That's interesting. It's a good test for it.
Yeah, exactly. In this early stage, I don't know if you tested any 5G, but Croydon is actually, I'm getting better 5G speeds in Croydon than I am near my office in central London.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So Croydon, yet again on the very cutting edge of, as we discussed last week, yes, I'm based in Croydon for the glamour, so it's
exactly
interesting.
And now it's also a tech high as well.
It is a tech high, that's right.
Beyond the phones and the Stadia controller, my mainstays in my backpack are usually this old but very reliable MacBook Air. And I also carry the biggest capacity battery you're allowed to take on planes. So I think it's 100 watt hours. So it's 27,000 milliamp hour battery. It's a huge thing. It weighs a ton.
Is that because you live in fear of running out?
I have massive battery anxiety despite rocking multiple phones. I don't want any of them to run out. So it's a curse because I barely use the thing. But it can charge my Nintendo Switch if I ever carry that with me as well. It's got PD fast charging, so it's a pretty solid battery pack. So that's it. And I also carry a little Joby tripod if ever I want to shoot a phone on a tripod. I can stick it in there, and as a journalist, you never know if you need to just suddenly live stream a hot news story or something.
That's it. So from a video front, because you said you were involved in obviously lots of videos that you do that are out there, you tend to shoot on your phone, or do you have a dedicated?
No, it's very depending on where I've worked. But right now, typically when we're in the office, we have a lovely studio that we shoot in with multiple camera setups, and we do all that kind of with proper, fully dedicated camera gear. Events, we usually take just a little high-res Sony compact camera around. It can shoot in 4K if we need to do some video stuff. Usually throw it on a gimbal. But
I've started using that set. I think one of those, it might be a slightly different model, but one of those Sony compact cameras for doing my stuff. They're actually really good. They're not cheap, but they're really good.
They're not cheap, but they are very good. I think for the size, you're getting a heck of a good camera. And they're only getting better. And I think Sony's kind of leading the way on those small video cameras.
The videographer camera. Or the you might say more like video blogging, or like that
absolutely.
Sort of blogging,
The RX range, I think, is the one that everyone kind of goes to for that specific avenue of video work.
So you're carrying stuff around. Like you say, it's interesting at the moment because there can be announcements that just happen out of the blue,
like this Apple announcement today.
Like the Apple announcement. So you need to just be able to cover it wherever you are, as and when. And so I mean, is there anything? It's a weird time, I know, because there's not a lot of events happening at the moment. But is there anything getting you excited, like in general in the tech world? Are you you're a phones guy, so are the folding phones doing anything for you, or is there?
I've played with the Razer. I've seen the Galaxy Z Flip or Z Flip, depending on where you're listening from. I think they have a place. I don't think they are going to be the main phone form factor. They're not going to take over from the Candy Bar, at least not right now. I think there's too many sacrifices that the user has to make. You pay the premium, there's water resistance and reliability issues. There's a few things, and also there's nothing really in the flagship space in the foldable market that can compete on both price and performance because you're paying that premium.
Sure.
But yeah, I think foldables are great. I'm glad that they're here, and I think with such a boring phone market, generally speaking, like most of the flagships have the same spec list more or less, with like a few camera tweaks here and there and a slightly different design or finish.
Yeah.
Right now, so yeah, I think by bringing in foldables, that's just breathing a little bit of new life.
Yeah. Because it has become a little bit staid, I guess.
There's a lot more kind of granular improvements is what we're seeing. The main thing I want to see a major improvement on it is battery tech, and we're working on fast charging right now. That is getting better and better. But just general longevity, like I know Apple a few years back, they bought a company that was involved in hydrogen fuel cells, and they have apparently somewhere in the lab somewhere a hydrogen fuel cell powered like iPhone 6 or something,
right?
And it lasts a week.
Oh wow!
Which
that's crazy.
That sounds incredible, right? If that ever took off in any way, shape, or form, I would be totally on board with that coming into the market. But yeah, who knows what kind of premium that would demand.
Yeah, it's that thing where when you're at home, it's no problem. You just put your phone down on a charger; it lasts the day. But it's when you're traveling and you've got to mess about charging your watch, your phone, all these different devices. Absolutely. That's when it becomes a problem. If you have something that lasts for a week, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a lot of innovation that needs to happen in that space, in the battery space. And I mean, so we've talked about your website. Obviously, you can go and check it out. But at the moment, you would say your S20 review is the one to go and have a look at.
That's the latest thing. Yeah. There'll be more from the announcement that are now all online only, like Nokia that we were talking about earlier. Very soon, if you keep an eye on the site, and we are going to be carrying on with our own weekly podcast and show, which you can check out. We're just going to be doing it in a slightly different manner from our respective houses.
Sure, so you're going to be live streaming from different houses from across a Google Hangout, basically.
Yeah, pretty much every Thursday afternoon, UK time.
Good stuff. And people can get in touch with you via Twitter to submit questions?
Twitter, Alex Walker Todd. Instagram, Alex Walker Todd. You can find me most places as Alex Walker Todd.
Good stuff. Alex, Toddy, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being my guest this week.
Thanks for
having
me on, guys. Cheers.
That's it for this episode. If you've been watching the live stream, thank you very much. If you're listening to the podcast, please go on your favourite platform and leave me a review or rating. Thanks again to Alex. You can follow him on Twitter and find him on YouTube. It's Tech Advisor. Make sure you do have a Google. There's some excellent video content on there. If you have any feedback or thoughts or questions or anything you want to air, please send it through to guy@guycocker.com. Again, you can find me on all the usual social platforms and follow me on twitter.com/guycocker for more updates on upcoming episodes. Don't have a guest in for next week, so that'll be an exciting scramble to try and find someone for next week. But if you want to have the shows delivered to you, you can have them delivered on iTunes, or actually it's Apple Podcasts really now, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all the usual platforms. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks again to Toddy.
Thank you very much again.
And we'll see you next week.